Kevin was unsure what would happen when he was led in front of the Alliance's director. He was relieved to find out that she wanted to reward him for saving the candidates for the position of administrator from the myriads the other day. Then the director said, "I heard from Marshall that you've been very helpful to him in recent months." "I've done my best," Kevin replied humbly. "From what I've heard about your current skill level, you show great promise as an apothecary. So I've decided to give you the title of messenger in our alliance," the director said as she gestured for someone to bring something over to Kevin. One of her assistants handed him a platinum signet ring. Everyone in the hall had their eyes on Kevin. Most of them were filled with jealousy. The members of the alliance knew that the title of messenger was almost as important as the one of the kingpins. In addition to that, the messenger had the authority to mobilize resources and also carry out the director's will. But before Kevin could touch the ring, a man suddenly stood up. He respectfully acknowledged the director and then he said, "Madam Director, I feel that Kevin is both immoral and incompetent. He isn't qualified to be messenger." Then he looked at Kevin with disdain. He was the Sergeant-at-Arms King, one of the Alliance's 4 kings. He had made countless contributions after joining the Alliance 30 years ago. Naturally, he had many supporters in the organization. "I would like you to reconsider. The messenger's position is extremely important to us. We can't let a newcomer take on the role," he sneered. "I think that although Kevin has made a great contribution, he is too young. I would only allow him to take this position once he's had more experience," he continued. "Young people tend to be too impulsive. Besides, Kevin doesn't yet have a strong enough reputation to take on this responsibility." Nearly half of the people in the room agreed with him and pleaded with the director to rescind her order. "Are you doubting my judgment?" the director replied coldly. "Please calm down, Madam Director. I wouldn't dare to insult you. But he can't be promoted to this position," he pleaded. "Kevin saved our administrator candidates and has made great contributions to our alliance. And now that he has been trained as an apothecary, he's already qualified to be our new messenger. Besides that, his mentor is the Night King. Do you still think that he isn't qualified?" the director explained. This last bit of information shocked the members. The Night King had been absent for years and they had no idea that he had taken on a pupil. "It seems like the Alliance really has a lot of information about me. How did they find out about my training with the Night King?" Kevin thought to himself as he listened to them whispering to each other. But he wasn't surprised that the director knew he could make herbal medicine. After all, he had saved Miranda in front of everyone at the campsite. Word was bound to spread. But how many of them believed in his skill? "Do you have any objections now?" the director asked the Sergeant-at-Arms King. "Since Kevin is the Night King's pupil, I naturally have no objections," he answered fearfully. "Then this matter will be decided," the director said as she stood up with her 2 assistants. "Kevin, come with me. There is an important matter for you to attend to." "Of course," Kevin said excitedly. He'd never thought that he would end up in such a prestigious position. As dozens of people watched, Kevin followed the director's assistants through a large door. It led to a room that was filled with a delicate fragrance. The director gestured for the 2 women to leave her alone with Kevin. "Since you're the Night King's pupil, you should have heard about the poison pill," the director said as she removed her collar so that Kevin could see her face clearly. When Kevin saw how beautiful she was, he was so stunned that he forgot to answer her question. "Do you realize that the Alliance would have you punished for looking at me like that?" she said sternly. "I'm sorry, but I was distracted for a second by your beauty," Kevin awkwardly apologized. "Since it's your first offense, I'll let it pass. For now, we have something more important to deal with. The poison pill," the director said lightly. "Anyone who joins the Alliance has to take one. If they don't take the antidote in time, they will not survive. Only the executive director and the Night King can prepare the antidote for the poison pill," she continued to explain. "But the executive director has been unavailable for the past 2 weeks and the Night King has always been elusive. The people you just saw in the main hall will take the poison pill in less than 3 days, so it will be up to you to make the antidote, the director explained as she looked closely at Kevin. So you want me to prepare a poison antidote? Kevin asked with some doubt. Well, it's not exactly an antidote, she clarified. We use the poison pill to control the members and assure their loyalty to the Alliance. It's not easy to do this because of the pill's side effects. So what you need to do is to refine a medicinal pill that suppresses the toxicity of the poison pill, and not the actual antidote. Do you understand? At this point, the director's eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of doubt, and she asked him, Could it be that the Night King didn't teach you this? Of course my mentor taught me this, but I wonder if the proper medicinal herbs are stored in the headquarters? Kevin asked with a faint smile. That's easy. There are herbs and flowers everywhere on the property. In fact, there's an inexhaustible supply. You can go and pick them as you wish, the director replied. Then her expression suddenly turned serious. But you can't mess this up. If you do, you'll pay with your life. Rest assured, Madam Director, I won't let you down, Kevin replied happily. The reason he'd asked about the herbs earlier was to have the director's permission to go outside and properly pick the ingredients that he needed. Go now, the director said as she gestured for Kevin to leave. Come and find me when you're ready. Kevin left the room and headed outside. After about 2 hours, he had picked a lot of herbs and flowers that were growing all around the building. I should bring Marshall back and show him all of this, Kevin said to himself excitedly. He had found all sorts of exotic ingredients. Some of them were necessary for the pills that he was about to prepare for the Alliance members, but others could be used for things that the Night King hadn't taught him yet and he knew that he wanted to make. Kevin found what he needed to reduce the effects of the poison pill. Then he headed over to the director's residence. As he walked in the door, he heard the sound of someone hyperventilating. What's she doing? Kevin wondered. He carefully walked to the door and knocked on it a few times. Is that you, Kevin? Come in quickly. The director sounded a little anxious. When Kevin walked into the room, he froze on the spot. The director was curled up on her bed. Her long dress was soaked with sweat and her thighs were exposed a little. She was having trouble breathing. Kevin was immediately concerned and asked her, Madam Director, have you taken the poison pill? I've been very busy lately, so I forgot that I took the poison pill a few days earlier than everyone else. Have you found any herbs that can counteract the poison? She asked weakly. I found them. Do you want me to make it for you immediately? Kevin asked her. You'll have to tie me up first. I'm afraid that the side effects will be too strong and I may hurt myself, she said while gritting her teeth. She felt as if there were tens of thousands of fire ants crawling over every part of her body. I'll do what I can, Kevin said as he took a deep breath and closed the door. He found some scarves and tied the director to her chair. Next, Kevin found a bowl and began to prepare the antidote. 10 minutes later, the bowl shattered and a pill rolled onto the table. Kevin wiped the sweat from his forehead and picked it up carefully. He walked over to the director and gave her the pill. Then he stepped back and waited for it to take effect. After a half an hour, the director let out a long breath. The painful side effects had subsided, and she said, I feel like I made a good choice. It looks like you have amazing skills for someone your age. My mentor has taught me well, but I still have a lot to learn, Kevin said modestly. But then he wondered what else the Night King had left to teach him. I'm not worried about refining the pill for the rest of the group right now. I have a different task for you, she said pleasantly. Kevin was a little worried. What could it be? Was she going to reward him for helping her? What do you have in mind? Kevin asked tentatively. A month ago, we received news that some of our rival organizations planned to set up a school for the natural healing arts in Chicago. On the surface, it looks like a school to help nurture talented young people, but in reality, it's an attempt to squash our alliance. Her eyes flashed with anger as she said this. This is a diabolical plan. How could they pretend to be virtuous but do something so vicious? Kevin asked with righteous indignation. Rest assured that as long as I'm still breathing, I won't let them succeed." "Well put. We need loyal and passionate men like you," she said with relief. "I was concerned that you wouldn't be willing to attend the school's new campus, but I'm not worried about that anymore." "What? You want me to be a spy?" Kevin was stunned once again. "I know that this is a difficult request, but it's the best time for you to make a contribution that would convince everyone that you're worthy of your new post as messenger," the director replied. "The new school will definitely cause a big stir in Chicago. Lots of rich kids will rush to enroll there. I need you to sneak in and find something for me." "What would you like me to find?" Kevin asked apprehensively. "One of the organizations involved in the school has a new process for herbal preparation that they call consolidation. I want you to learn it and bring it back to us," she told him. "But I'm sure you have people who already know far more about this," Kevin suggested. "Don't be afraid," she interrupted. "For you to complete the mission smoothly, I've prepared a secret manual for you. It's in the box on your left. Open it up and take a look." "Of course." Kevin agreed. He had his doubts, but it was too late to back down now. He opened the box and took out the manual. Kevin was surprised to see that there was also a blood-red pill in the box. "What pill is this?" Kevin wondered out loud. "This is called the condensation pill. It helps to keep your internal energy from being unstable, which can be very dangerous," the director explained. "The pill is there to help you with your mission." Kevin immediately became happy when he heard this. Of course, he had learned about the condensation pill. At this point in his development, it would be very important for him. Otherwise, he might have problems down the road. He might not be ready for it yet, but Kevin was willing to take a chance. Without even thinking, he swallowed the medicinal pill in one gulp. "Hold on," the director quickly stopped him. "The medicinal properties of this pill are extremely powerful. You are supposed to take it while soaking in a mountain spring." "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Kevin said in a panic. Why hadn't he read this in any of his books? There are no mountains near Chicago. "I was about to tell you, but you swallowed it before I had a chance," the director said helplessly. "What will happen if I take it like this? Can it kill me?" Kevin asked sadly. "I have no idea. I've never heard of anyone taking the pill this way." The director shook her head. "Come over here so I can take a look at you." Kevin nodded, but as he was walking over to the director, his face suddenly felt like it was on fire. Very soon, Kevin felt like he was in a furnace and his whole body was burning. But in the next second, he suddenly started shivering. The heat instantly turned cold, and even the air that came out of his mouth and nose was freezing. "This isn't the condensation pill," Kevin said as he fell to the ground trembling in agony. "This is the madness pill." Suddenly, Kevin felt his body fill with power that needed to be released immediately. After a few minutes, his vision was blurred. He got up shakily from the floor and started to take off his clothes. The Alliance director asked Kevin to go on an assignment to infiltrate the Chicago School for the Natural Healing Arts because it was really a front to destroy the Alliance. She gave him a condensation pill to help him with his mission, but it turned out to be a madness pill. The director said hesitantly. By now, under the effects of the pill, Kevin couldn't control himself, although she had been married to the Alliance's executive director for many years. The two of them were husband and wife in name only. She was the only one who knew that her husband had suffered an injury several years before that had rendered him impotent. Since then, he had been obsessed with business and personal development, but he had no interest in women at all. Lily, who had just finished her live broadcast, was lying on the bed when her phone vibrated. It was a message from one of her fans. "Are you busy? Do you have time to go out to eat tomorrow?" he asked. He was the second highest tipper in Lily's live broadcast, right after Mighty Moose. "How about after my show tomorrow afternoon? We can have dinner," Lily replied with a smile emoji. What she really wanted was to hear from Mighty Moose. But for some reason, every time he finished making his donation, he would immediately leave the chat. He never gave her a chance to communicate with him. As long as you have the time, that's fine with me. How about the Salix Leaf Hotel tomorrow evening at 6? He suggested. No problem, Lily replied simply. Okay, see you tomorrow night, he answered. And then he added a bouquet of roses emoji. After a while, Kevin gradually came back to his senses. He couldn't remember anything about what had happened during the night. He only remembered feeling that there was an endless amount of energy in his body that needed to be released. Well, didn't kill me, Kevin thought delightedly. I didn't expect the madness pill to have such an overpowering effect on me. As he was thinking about the pill he had taken the night before, Kevin suddenly looked down and saw that his entire body was still trembling violently. At the same time, he saw the director lying completely in his arms. Her beautiful face was still glowing. He didn't know how long the director had been awake. When he looked at her face, she was staring at him seductively. He could see a mix of complicated emotions in her eyes. Did I wake you up at all last night? Kevin thought to himself in disbelief. The madness pill had been so strong that he was still feeling a little dizzy. They lay there in silence until the director finally said faintly, When you wake up, you'll have to leave. Madam Director, Kevin didn't know what to say for a moment. He hurriedly let go of her and got out of bed. The director stared intently at Kevin. In fact, she had mixed feelings in her heart. On the one hand, she was in charge of thousands of people, but on the other, this young man had given her something that had been missing from her life for so long. But what had happened during the night had made the director feel satisfied and blissful. In spite of her high rank in the Alliance, the director was still a very young woman. Her husband would barely look at her most of the time. While she was thinking about all of these things, the director slipped on a fiery red dress. She turned her head and looked at Kevin, who was standing nearby looking extremely vulnerable. Neither of them said anything, but the atmosphere in the room got very mysterious. The director broke the silence and told Kevin, I understand what the pill did to you last night, so I'm willing to let it go. But you should be smart enough to know that this is just between the two of us. Then she added, If you say a word about this, your entire family will regret that you were ever born. If word ever got out that the director had an affair with the Alliance's messenger, not only would Kevin's life be in danger, but it would also harm her reputation. She was afraid of how it would turn out for her. Don't worry, Madam Director. Our secret will never leave this room, Kevin said very sincerely. He wasn't a fool. What good would it do him to tell anyone about this? What made Kevin feel really fortunate was that she hadn't rejected him. That would have killed him. The mission I gave you is very important and quite simple. Bring back the secret of the consolidation pill. I'll arrange for someone to send you back to the city immediately, the director said. She couldn't help but think about the previous night as she looked at Kevin a little bashfully. I won't let you down, Kevin answered devotedly. When Kevin returned to Chicago, it was already past 7 o'clock in the evening. As soon as he got back to his condo, he got a call from Miranda Steele. Kevin, come down to Downtown General right away. Someone just beat Dalton up, Miranda sobbed. Don't panic. I'll be right there, Kevin told her. His good mood immediately changed to distress. Kevin arrived at the hospital within an hour. When he saw Dalton's condition, he almost went berserk. Dalton was in a coma, and his entire body was covered with blood-stained bandages. The doctor said that his arms and legs were all broken, and even if he comes out of the coma, he may be bedridden for the rest of his life, Miranda told Kevin as tears flowed down her cheeks. Who did this? I'll kill them, Kevin yelled as he clenched his fist tightly. While we were eating at the Salix Leaf Hotel this evening, we saw Lily having dinner with a man, Miranda explained. At first, Dalton and I thought that they were friends, but then we saw him secretly put something in Lily's glass while she was in the bathroom. Dalton tried to get Lily to leave with us, but she said that it was none of our business, Miranda added. Then how did he get injured like this? Kevin asked. When he heard that Lily was involved, he had trouble staying calm. What made Kevin even more confused was that Lily should have been home doing her live stream. What was she doing having dinner with another man at the Salix Leaf Hotel? You know how Dalton is, Miranda replied. He was trying to protect your wife, but when he insisted that she leave, she refused and even poured a glass of wine on him. Dalton couldn't hold in his temper anymore. He wanted to force Lily to leave, but the man immediately stood up to stop him. They got into a fight and Dalton asked me to call for help, Miranda continued. But we didn't expect the guy to have so many powerful men with him. By the time I got back to the hotel, Dalton had been left in the street half dead, Miranda said as she wiped her tears. Now that he knew what had happened, Kevin got a determined look on his face and pulled out his phone to call Rachel. Kevin, what's going on? Rachel asked guiltily. Do you know what happened at the hotel this evening? Kevin asked her very calmly. Kevin was furious, but it was so deep inside him that it wasn't showing yet in his voice. I know, Rachel answered timidly. Why didn't you call me right away? Did you forget what I told you? Kevin asked her curtly. No, I'm sorry, Kevin. I was just thinking about your safety. The man who was having dinner with Lily this evening was Nolan Hill from the Hill family in Detroit. I understand, Kevin replied as he hung up the phone before Rachel could finish what she was saying. Have you heard of the Hill family in Detroit? Kevin asked Miranda. I've heard of them, she answered as she took a few deep breaths to try to control her emotions. They got where they are with a lot of hard work, but they're also developing their physical strength. They have a passionate interest in herbal medicine and the martial arts. Thanks, I understand, Kevin said as he started to call Lily on the phone. Kevin decided to call her because the whole thing had started as a result of her bad decision. So, you're out of prison? Lily asked him coldly. Kevin didn't feel like explaining what had happened with the myriads and Officer Emmett, so he ignored her question and got straight to the point. What happened at the hotel? Why didn't you listen to Dalton? Why should I listen to him? I was just eating with one of my fans. Dalton's the one who started the fight, and he only has himself to blame for getting beaten up, Lily said uneasily. She thought that Kevin had just gotten out of prison and was only calling to criticize her. She wondered if Kevin felt that Dalton was more important to him than she was. Do you know that because of your gullibility, Dalton almost lost his life? He's still in a coma, Kevin said as he gritted his teeth. Whether you were with that man or not, you must come to the hospital immediately. Why should I pay attention to you? Listen, Kevin, we're finished. I have my own life now. Don't call me again. Lily hung up the phone after she finished speaking. Kevin was so angry that he almost crushed his phone in his hand. He turned around and started to head out of the hospital room. Kevin, what are you going to do? Miranda asked him. Don't worry, Miranda. I'll get the guy who did this to Dalton, Kevin said gravely. Kevin felt that this was all his fault. If he and Dalton weren't so close, he wouldn't have tried to save Lily and he wouldn't be in the hospital right now. Kevin swore to take revenge for what the Hill family had done to his friend. While this was going on, Lily was in a luxurious private room at the Salix Leaf Hotel. She tossed her phone aside in frustration after she hung up with Kevin. Lily was already in a bad mood, but now that things were over with Kevin, she felt even worse. Nolan Hill was sitting beside her, dressed in a very expensive designer suit. He was chatting and laughing with another middle-aged man. Nolan was not only extremely wealthy, but he was also very handsome and had a good sense of humor. On top of that, he was very well educated. Some would call him perfect boyfriend material. Lily originally thought that she would be alone with Nolan this evening. She didn't expect to share him with this unattractive man, Dr. Spaulding. I'm so lucky that Dr. Spaulding came to dinner this evening, Nolan said as he poured a glass of wine for his friend. The two of them had known each other for many years. Not long ago, Dr. Spaulding's family had developed a very powerful medicinal pill. That's why Nolan had invited him over to the hotel. Not only did he want to have a meal with his friend, but he also wanted to take the opportunity to ask him for a few of his pills. How could I refuse an invitation from such a good friend? Dr. Spaulding replied as he stared at Lily. After having a few more glasses of wine, Nolan decided to change the subject. I heard that you may have access to a medicinal pill that could help me get past a sticking point in my training. That's true, Dr. Spaulding replied. But it took a lot of effort. We even had to find an apothecary to help us develop it. While he spoke, Dr. Spaulding swirled the wine in his glass. He never took his eyes off of Lily. I wonder what I might have to do to get one, Nolan asked. He still hadn't picked up on Dr. Spaulding's intentions. Seriously, Nolan? How could I let a few medicinal pills get in the way of our friendship? The whole time Dr. Spaulding was talking, he was giving Lily a lewd smile. It's just that I've been alone for quite a while. Would you be willing to let me spend some time with this beautiful creature? Lily was very upset to hear him talking like this, and Nolan replied awkwardly. You may not know this, but Lily is a good friend of mine, and she's very wholesome. Nolan wasn't ready to agree with Dr. Spaulding's request. I won't press the matter, Nolan, but this medicinal pill... Dr. Spaulding's voice trailed off, but Nolan knew what he was getting at. He'd been trying desperately for years to make some progress. How could he let this opportunity slip away? Dr. Spaulding held out a pill in his hand. As Nolan took it, he said, Enjoy your evening. Nolan, what kind of person are you? How could you do this to me? Lily sobbed as she picked up her bag and headed towards the door. When Kevin called Lily, she told him that their relationship was over and that she'd moved on. She was in a room at the Salix Leaf Hotel with Nolan Hill and his friend Dr. Spaulding. Then Nolan shocked her by offering Lily to his friend in exchange for a powerful herbal pill. She refused and got up to leave. But a second later, Dr. Spaulding grabbed her from behind. Let me go, Lily said as she struggled to turn around. Then she gave Dr. Spaulding a slap on the cheek. Surprisingly, this didn't make the man angry. In fact, he started to smile lasciviously. I didn't expect you to have so much fire. It just so happens that I like women with passion. I find it exciting. Let me go right now, Lily shouted as she shoved him away. Just then, the door burst open with a powerful kick. Who the hell are you? How dare you interrupt us? Get out of here! Nolan growled as he got up from his chair. Lily's face lit up when she saw who had charged into the room. She ran toward the door and yelled, Kevin, please save me! So you're the famous Kevin I've heard so much about. Nolan sneered as he slowly walked to the door. Was Dalton Steele a friend of yours? I'm pleased to tell you that he's done for. He'll never cause anyone any problems for the rest of his miserable life. Dr. Spaulding was distracted by Kevin's explosive entrance and forgot about his sinister plans for Lily. Then Lily quickly ran behind Kevin and said weakly, Kevin, let's get out of here. You can't risk getting them angry. And you're Nolan? Kevin growled. Now that you know who I am, why don't you get the hell out of here? Nolan shouted as he looked at Kevin with disdain. Not only will I not get the hell out of here, but I also have news for you. You'll never get out of Chicago safe and sound, Kevin said coldly. Kevin, what are you talking about? This isn't a game. These guys are serious, Lily warned him. Lily thought that they still had a chance to escape, even though it was very unlikely. But if Kevin angered Nolan, they would definitely not be able to leave. She knew that Kevin was very good at fighting, but even Dalton had been badly beaten by Nolan and his men. She had no idea how Kevin would be able to stop all of them by himself. You think you can stop me? Nolan sneered. Then he snapped his fingers and a dozen bodyguards entered the suite from the adjoining room. The blood rushed from Lily's face when she saw them come in. These were the same men who had beaten Dalton within an inch of his life. Is that all you've got? Kevin said boldly. That's all I need for a weakling like you. I'm going to teach you a lesson you'll never forget. You know what they say, might makes right. Well, today I'm right, Nolan said proudly. That's what you think, Kevin said calmly. That's right. That's what I think. If you're strong enough, you can try and stand up to me. But you're in for a big surprise, Nolan replied while staring daggers at Kevin. Okay, Kevin said as he turned his head and shouted at his people in the hall. Everyone, come in here. As soon as Kevin finished speaking, a dark wave of people rushed into the room. They were all members of the Myriads. Capture all of them. Take them all and throw them into the lake, Kevin ordered brutally. Spencer and Derek, his senior aides in the Myriads, were the first to rush into the room. They were swinging wildly as they ran in and knocked 4 of Nolan's bodyguards to the ground at once. Where are these men from? Dr. Spaulding said in shock. In less than a minute, Nolan was lying on the floor, pressing his hand on the wound on his shoulder. It was so deep that his bones were showing through the skin. Half of his body was stained red with blood. His bodyguards had been beaten until they were half dead. The myriads were busy picking them up and carrying them out of the hotel. Dr. Spaulding, on the other hand, was lying in a corner barely breathing. "Don't let this get out of hand. You've gotten the wrong idea. Lily and I are just good friends," Nolan stammered as he struggled to keep from passing out. "My brother is still lying in the hospital and hasn't come out of his coma yet. And you have the nerve to tell me not to let this get out of hand?" Kevin roared as he put his foot on Nolan's chest, almost breaking his sternum. "You said that might makes right. Well, it looks like I'm stronger than you and I have more men. Does that make you a weakling?" Kevin asked mockingly. "Yes," Nolan gritted his teeth and reluctantly answered. "You need to call the head of your family right now and ask them to apologize to Norman Steele personally," Kevin said sternly. "Yes, I'll do it." Nolan was in no position to argue. He was so badly beaten that he was afraid Kevin would kill him and have him thrown in the lake if he didn't do what he said. A couple of minutes later, Nolan called his grandfather and told him everything. "My grandfather wants to talk to you," Nolan said as he handed his phone to Kevin. His eyes were filled with resentment. For one thing, he'd never been stepped on by anyone before. Once he got back to Detroit, he swore to find a way to kill Kevin. When Kevin took the phone, before he could say anything, he heard a deep voice telling him, "Don't push this too far. You need to stop before this gets out of hand." Nolan's grandfather, Dale Hill, said carefully, "My grandson has already been punished. It's time for you to put a stop to this." "It's not that easy. Your grandson broke every bone in my brother's body. He may never walk again because of his injuries. Then your grandson had his friend attack my wife. And now you're telling me to stop?" Kevin said in disbelief. "Then what do you want from me?" Dale said as he took a deep breath. "You're going to call my friend's grandfather, Norman Steele, right now to apologize. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that your grandson will be allowed to leave Chicago alive," Kevin explained in a very threatening voice. "You certainly are an arrogant young man," Nolan's grandfather replied. "Why don't you come to Detroit one of these days when you have the time? I promise we'll prepare a proper welcome for you," Dale Hill said. It was clear to Kevin that this was a threat. "All right, I'm looking forward to it, if you're up to the challenge," Kevin retorted before he hung up the phone. "Can you please let me up now?" Nolan begged Kevin as his voice grew fainter and fainter. If he didn't get to the hospital soon, he would definitely lose too much blood. "I didn't say that I'd let you go so easily," Kevin said as he threw the phone against the wall and smashed it into pieces. "My grandfather told you that this has to end. If you don't stop now, he'll never let you get away with it," Nolan pleaded. "I'm not too worried about that," Kevin sneered as he pulled out the night dagger. "If I let you get away with what you did to Dalton, how can I ever look at myself in the mirror again?" Kevin growled as he sliced at Nolan's ankle with the blade of the knife that the Night King had given him. Then, as Nolan screamed in agony, Kevin cut his Achilles tendons. Even the members of the myriads who were watching this were scared out of their minds. They couldn't help but think that, although Kevin looked polite and peaceful on the outside, he could be quite vicious. Finally, Kevin turned to the men and said, "Take him outside and throw him into the lake." "Yes, sir," the men responded. They were looking at Kevin differently now. There was no need for Kevin to clean the blood off his dagger. It had been forged in a way that kept anything from adhering to it. After he left the room, Kevin headed to the Salix Leaf Hotel's underground garage. By now, Lily was already waiting for him there. He didn't even greet her as he walked to his car to drive away. "Kevin, listen to me. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me," Lily begged as she suddenly grabbed his arm. "What's the use of knowing you were wrong? Will that help Dalton heal from his injuries?" Kevin said as he pushed Lily away forcefully. "Kevin, please don't go. I admit I was wrong, but I couldn't help it. I was banished from the Jones family and had no choice but to find work. The online show was all I could find. If Nolan hadn't given me all that money, I never would have met with him," Lily sobbed. How much did he pay you? I'll bet it wasn't even a tenth of what I gave you, Kevin replied expressionlessly. How could you give me any money? Didn't you get locked up because you'd beat someone up? Didn't you just get out of jail today? Lily asked in disbelief. Kevin took a deep breath and asked her, Is one of your online fans called Mighty Moose? Lily was stunned when she heard that. Could her top admirer have been Kevin? When she thought about this, Lily's body quivered. She opened her mouth to speak but didn't know what to say. Just as Kevin was about to open the car door, Lily grabbed his arm again. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please don't leave me. Kevin sighed. We've been married for all these years, but you have no idea what I've been secretly doing for you. I ordered Williams Media to give you Brittany's account, and it was me who told Tyler Dawn to give you the Jones family's majority shares. I even bought you the Dream Lover necklace you wanted so much, but what have you done for me? Since you said that we're finished, let's leave it that way. Dalton is still lying in the hospital. I have to go and see him, but you should be thinking about one thing. He was put there because of you, Kevin said sourly. After he said this, Kevin pulled his arm away from Lily and quickly got into his car. He left without looking back. As she watched Kevin drive away, Lily couldn't hold back her tears. She didn't even remember how she got home that evening. Lily was up all night thinking about what Kevin had said. When Dalton Steele tried to warn her about Nolan, she didn't believe him at all. Then when Dalton was beaten up, she just stood there and watched in silence. She didn't say a word to help him. Early the next morning, a piece of explosive news shook all of Chicago. A young member of the Hill family had been critically injured. His arms and legs had been broken and he had been attacked with a knife. He would never be able to walk again, and his bodyguards had been beaten and thrown into Lake Michigan. Kevin didn't pay any attention to the news. His focus over the next few days was to help Dalton recover. During the day, he stayed by Dalton's bedside. At night, Kevin went back to his condo to read through his books to see if there were any pills that could cure his friend. 3 days later, Dalton's skin was starting to heal. Although his life had been saved, the doctor was sure that he would never be able to walk again for the rest of his life. Do you want some more soup? Miranda asked her husband as she dipped the spoon into the bowl. I'm full, Dalton smiled and said. Honey, do you think Kevin's the one who paralyzed Nolan? I'm sure of it, she said. The police still don't know who did it, but the other night he told me that he would get revenge on your attacker. I watched him leave the hospital with my own eyes. I never expected Kevin to be so ruthless. Who would have thought he had it in him to beat someone so savagely? Dalton wondered out loud. Just as Miranda was about to reply, Kevin pushed open the door and walked into the room. Kevin, did you just get out of a coal mine? Dalton laughed when he saw his friend. Even Miranda, who was sitting next to the bed, couldn't keep from laughing. Kevin was filthy. Not only was his face covered with soot, but his clothes were torn and dirty. Even his hair was a complete mess. Don't worry about me right now. Hurry up and swallow this pill, Kevin insisted. Dalton didn't say a thing. He just opened his mouth and swallowed the pill. Damn you, Kevin. What the heck did you just give me? That's the most bitter thing I've ever tasted, Dalton complained. He thought he was going to throw up. I know it's bitter, but it will definitely help your recovery. Besides, this pill has a very nice name. It's called the Restoration Pill, and I went to a lot of effort to make it for you, Kevin told them as he watched for any negative reaction. What kind of a thing is a restoration pill? Dalton asked in confusion. Miranda also looked interested. I prepared this medicinal pill using some exotic herbs and also a few animal products. It was difficult because it was a little beyond my current level of training. I failed a dozen times last night before I finally succeeded, Kevin explained seriously. You mean it's not a vegetarian recipe? Dalton joked. He asked Miranda to pour him a glass of water as fast as she could. He hated things that tasted bitter. You can't drink any water right now. You have to absorb the medicinal properties of the pill first, Kevin told them as he quickly stopped Miranda from handing him the glass. Are you deliberately messing with me, brother? Dalton groaned. Kevin, you have no idea. I've never met anyone who hated bitter herbs as much as Dalton, Miranda told him. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was the first time she'd felt hopeful in days.
Hi, Kevin here. If you're wondering what happens next, then stay tuned on the Pocket FM Universe channel for more episodes.